Hello, my name's Ian Seeger from Pilot Career News. On the 6th and 7th of November, we held our very first virtual edition of Pilot Careers Live. We streamed over 30 different seminars with 60 speakers. There were 2 days packed full of great information. Of course, we recorded everything, and you're about to watch one of the videos from the event. Before you do, I just want to thank our sponsors, Bose, Alsim, Entro, and of course Pulis. Without them and without the exhibitors, it wouldn't be possible. The exhibitor pages are still live, so feel free to head on over there, go to www.pilotcareerslive.com and click through to the exhibitors. There's loads of information, loads of downloads, all sorts of great stuff there for you. Anyway, enjoy the video, and if you find it useful, really appreciate it if you click subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye-bye. Good morning and welcome to day 2 of PCLV, the first edition of our virtual edition of Pilot Careers Live. Yesterday we streamed over 7 hours, I think, of great content, and we had a fantastic time. So welcome today. Today we've got an even more packed schedule, lots and lots of speakers giving you huge amounts of great information. And the whole point of this day is that you take the information, you think about it, you get your questions answered, and all of it is intended to help you plan your commercial flying training, your commercial career, and whether you do that now, whether you do that in the future. The information here is aimed at giving you the data you need to make an informed decision. I'm here with Karen Bath. Morning, Karen. Morning. Who's sharing the hosting duties with me today. That's great. Karen's been in the industry for a long time, knows huge amounts of stuff, and much more than me. It's true. And so we hope you have a really good day. Before I hand over to Karen briefly, I just would like to thank our sponsors, who are Bose, Alsim, Entro, and Pulis. And if you're buying anything from Pulis, then if you use the code PCL at checkout, you'll get 5% off. Karen.
Hi, morning everybody. It's great to be back. Day 2. Yesterday, as Ian says, was absolutely jam-packed, full-on day, and hopefully people found it really useful. And again, as Ian says, this is about giving you the information you need to go away and make an informed decision about whether you pursue the career, when you pursue the career, which route you take, which ATO you choose to go to, whatever your options might be. So really, really use the opportunity to gather your information, and then you need to dig deeper even beyond today, but today gives you a really good opportunity to do some research. Not only have we got a great speaker programme, we've also got some fantastic exhibitors, virtual exhibitors with us today, so please find time during the day to go off and chat to all the exhibitors, or as many of them as you possibly can do. Again, it's all about gathering information, so take the opportunity to get what you can from today. Have a good day.
Absolutely. And interact, please feel free to interact. There's a little chat box at the bottom of the screen. You can chat, you can ask questions. We try and put the questions into the Q&A sessions, but you can chat all the time. Just one rule: play nice, be constructive. This day's for you to get as much information as you can. Ask the questions on there. Go and visit the exhibitors. If you've got specific questions, they can answer them too, and then we'll all get what we need out of this day. So have a great day, and we'll see you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, this morning we're talking to Captain David Morgan, who's Head of Flight Operations for easyJet. Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Ian. Yes, good. And you?
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting times, eh?
Yes. Challenging in the extreme in many ways, and exciting in other ways in terms of perhaps the opportunities ahead.
Well, last time we were gathered at a Pilot Careers Live was last year, I believe, possibly April or November. I can't quite remember. But one of the themes that was emerging amongst the people coming along, the future commercial pilots, was a concern for the environment. And I understand this is a bit of an easyJet theme as well. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, certainly. I think that if we kind of take a step back and look at aviation and the challenges that we're facing at the moment. I mean, clearly we're in a major situation in terms of the pandemic. But what we're pretty certain is that we will get through this. I mean, we've had catastrophes before. We've had 9/11, we've had the volcanic ash and SARS and goodness knows what. And aviation always recovers from these setbacks, and we are absolutely confident that we will recover from this in some way. And the demand for travel is still there. We've seen that very clearly. As soon as lifting of restrictions are shown in the Canaries a few weeks ago, there was a huge demand for people wanting to travel. So the fundamental desire for travel is still there and will be there in the future. But what isn't going away is the issue around the environment. And I think that, it's become very clear over the last few years in particular, is that, aviation is, regrettably contributing towards the environment problem. We're not the biggest contributor, but nevertheless, we don't have a very simple or very clear roadmap in terms of how we get out of that. So I think that whatever happens with this current setback, we have to look to the future as to how do we decarbonize aviation, and not make us perhaps, a tobacco industry, equivalent of the future, where perhaps people think, well, really, do I want to fly in an industry that is polluting the atmosphere in the way it is? So yes, we are absolutely committed in easyJet to doing our part, and actually doing more than our part in leading, in many ways, aviation into a greener future.
So that's great, but at the moment that's kind of just talk. Is there? Do I understand that easyJet offset carbon currently, or have a project for offsetting carbon?
Yes, indeed. So we know that at the moment there is very little from a technology perspective we can do to make the situation better. We can't go out and buy an electric airplane tomorrow and solve the problem. But one of the things that we can do is to offset the carbon which is burned by using accredited offsetting credits, that you can find with reforestation and other projects around the world. So since November 2019, so the end of last year, easyJet has offset the carbon for all of its flights without requiring a passenger to pay extra or click a button or do anything else. So if you get on an easyJet flight, the carbon that you burn, in terms of your journey, will be offset by easyJet. And so far, we've offset more than 2 million tons of CO2 since we started that project. And we recognise, of course, it's an interim measure. This is not the end solution, and we haven't. Job is not done at this stage, but it is the responsible thing to do at the moment while we wait for technology to come along.
Absolutely. So can we expect thousands of orange forests to be popping up all over the world?
Well, who knows? But I think what's important to say is that, when you look at carbon offsetting, you'll get a mixed reaction about, whether that is a good thing or not. And you hear the phrases like greenwashing and all this sort of thing. So, we went to great lengths to make sure that the offsetting projects that we use are only of the highest quality. And in fact, they've been verified, audited by two organizations, Gold Standard and Verified Carbon Standard, which are used by governments around the world to make sure that those projects are genuine and are sort of scientific, if you like, in terms of their offsetting capability. So that they are absolutely not in any way greenwashing, that they are scientific projects. But like I say, they are an interim measure in our journey to fully decarbonising the airline.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was reading some stuff recently, and Airbus are talking very much about carbon zero and hydrogen-powered aircraft, some of which seem to have a slightly bonkers timescale, I have to say. It takes a while to develop, certify, and bring into service an airplane.
Yeah, it does. So, a few weeks ago, like you said, that Airbus announced their concept aircraft, hydrogen aircraft. And I have to say that, I've been flying for about 35 years now. And when I heard that announcement, it was actually quite an emotional day for me, because I've been seeing this problem coming for a long time, in terms of the industry and the direction that we're going with the environment. And for the biggest aircraft manufacturer in the world to put a stake in the ground and say, we will develop a zero emissions aircraft by 2035, was quite something. And Glenn Llewellyn, who's the Vice President of Zero Emissions for Airbus, said that this will be the most exciting change in the history of Airbus. And he is absolutely right. This is really something. And why we're excited about it in easyJet is because some of the first zero emissions aircraft will probably have a shorter range. I mean, I don't think anyone is suggesting that long range aircraft are going to be flying around even in 2035 necessarily. But the leisure market, the short haul market, could absolutely be. And of course, easyJet is very well placed to take advantage of that technology. So we are very excited about that announcement. And indeed, we are working with Airbus on that particular ZeroE project. And we've already had, our first workshop, and we have a second workshop with them next month. And this collaboration will continue for years until the aircraft is developed.
Sorry, you can see a zero-emission Airbus hydrogen-powered aircraft in easyJet's future.
Absolutely. I think that what's exciting about technology here is that we've got kind of two areas of zero emissions technology emerging. You've got the electric, which we've already seen a number of electric aircraft hit the headlines over the last months and years. Almost weekly, there's a new record broken, the fastest electric aircraft, or the first EASA certified electric aircraft, or the first commercial electric aircraft, albeit, perhaps 6 or 7 seats, and this kind of thing. The challenge with batteries for large-sized commercial aircraft is the laws of physics are against us, unfortunately, and that as the aircraft grows in size, then the energy required to power that aircraft increases exponentially. And I often use the example, if you were to take an Airbus A320, such that easyJet flies around at the moment, and stuff it full of batteries, then you'd be able to take off from our headquarters in Luton. But by the time you got to London, you'd be looking for somewhere to land. So the challenge is enormous. Now, it may be, and it's quite likely, that battery technology will continue to improve over the years and the decades, to a point where you might see short-range aircraft flying around completely on batteries in the future, but we don't really know that yet. So I think the reason why Airbus has gone down the hydrogen route is that hydrogen is a known energy source right now, and that we know that we can build hydrogen engines, albeit with a lot of challenges, I have to say. It's a known product right now with a known energy density. And as you said at the beginning, it takes a long time to develop a commercial aircraft. And even 2035 is like tomorrow in an aircraft manufacturing world. It does mean that they can then focus on a particular energy source and say, okay, we can do this, and we can do it by 2035. But I think batteries will also take a part in the future, and certainly things like hydrogen fuel cells, so hydrogen converted into electricity using a fuel cell, will also most likely be a big part of aviation of the future.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess going back to hydrogen aircraft for a second, it's not just Airbus don't suddenly phone you up and go, David, your new airplane's ready, come pick it up. There's training, there's maintenance, and actually there is no worldwide infrastructure for delivering hydrogen. If you land in Corfu and just get tops up with hydrogen, mate, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, the infrastructure problem is probably bigger than the problem of actually designing the airplane. And so one of the reasons why easyJet is part of the consortium to try and decarbonize aviation is because we see the whole of the ecosystem of aviation. We are working with aircraft manufacturers, engine manufacturers, airports, governments, air traffic control, and so on. So we have this kind of helicopter view of the whole ecosystem, and we're in a good place to help support the changes that are needed to develop the infrastructure for hydrogen. So you're absolutely right that getting the fuel into these airports is really challenging. But it's great to see that hydrogen is being taken seriously by a number of different industries now as a viable source of energy. So even domestic heating in houses could potentially be fueled by hydrogen. We've seen the first hydrogen train power just a few weeks ago in the UK. And of course, in some parts of the world, hydrogen cars are widespread, but we'll probably see more of that in commercial vehicles in the UK, perhaps coaches and buses and this kind of thing. So the infrastructure is really important, and getting it to those airports is going to be quite a challenge.
So, I mean, Airbus are presumably they're an airframe manufacturer. They're not an engine manufacturer. And easyJet aren't airframe or engine manufacturers.
Yeah.
Are you partnering with engine manufacturers as well, or is Airbus driving that side of things?
So it's a collaborative project. I think that in many ways, a lot of the barriers are down when it comes to decarbonising aviation, and that we have to work together collaboratively in order to solve this monumental problem. It's almost a kind of Dunkirk spirit required to be able to get over some of the challenges. So whereas previously some organizations might have been at each other's throats with competitive advantages and so on, when it comes to solving this problem, I've never seen such a collaborative approach that we do now. So yes, we discuss with engine manufacturers, with Airbus, and likewise, they do the same.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I guess it's an existential problem for the whole industry, really, and some would say for the world.
Yeah.
So it clearly requires some sorting. I mean, in 2035, even if it's 5 years late or 10 years late, there are people today who haven't begun training as a commercial pilot, let alone got their first job, who are very likely to see flying a hydrogen plane actually in their future, as part of their career before they retire, even if they haven't started yet. I mean, what's that going to mean for them? Just type ratings, presumably? Or?
Absolutely. I mean, it's extremely exciting. I wish I was a bit younger. I mean, sadly, I will be retired when the hydrogen aircraft are flying around. Maybe I'll just catch the first ones. I don't know, but I think it will be extremely exciting. Hydrogen is a remarkable energy source. It's the most abundant element in the universe, which I think is quite nice when you think of that as a fuel for aviation of the future. But it has some wacky properties as well for any of the sort of chemists amongst our listeners. One of which is that to store it in liquid form requires it to be extremely cold. It has to be held in cryogenic tanks at some minus 260 degrees Celsius. So it's going to be quite strange as a pilot to be flying around with some extremely cold fuel on board. But I guess we'll get used to living with this unusual substance. It's also incredibly light. It's a fraction of the weight of kerosene fuel, but its volume is bigger. So you have to have bigger tanks to get the same amount of energy. The fuel is likely to be stored not in the wings, but in the fuselage. So there's going to be lots of things that are a bit different to flying conventional aircraft. And in terms of the technology generally, I think going forward, it's hugely exciting. We've seen the way things have developed over the years in terms of automation and how that has improved safety in so many areas. And despite what we say about having good hand flying skills, which of course is still very important, we can very clearly see the benefits of technology in terms of CFIT and traffic collision avoidance and so on. And that will just continue. So all of those benefits will get better and better. So flying will become safer. And I've got no worries about, some people say, what about the Hindenburg aircraft? That was hydrogen, Well, I can tell you that, when you look at the film of the poor old Hindenburg going up in a puff of smoke, then what you were actually seeing was the burning of the canvas, the material, and that sort of waxy substance. You weren't seeing the hydrogen burn. That had already gone by that stage. So hydrogen is a very safe substance to use when it's obviously stored correctly and so on. So we've got no concerns about the certification and the safety aspect of hydrogen. It'll be an extremely safe aircraft. I'm absolutely sure of that.
Definitely very exciting times. I kind of have to ask the question, to be honest. I mean, we are in a very, very challenging time at the moment. We're recording this on day one of the next lockdown, which lasts for the next 4 weeks. The government has effectively banned any leisure travel, so travel for business only. So clearly, all of the airlines, easyJet included, are going to be impacted even more by that than they have been before. how difficult is it to stay focused on environmental issues and on long-term strategic planning for things like hydrogen aircraft when many businesses, my own included, every single day is right. Okay, well, our strategy at the moment is just about survival. Other things are going to have to wait.
So you're right. I mean, it is an exceptionally difficult period at the moment. I mean, we saw in the summer easyJet ground its entire fleet for 11 weeks. And just prior to that, it would have been completely unthinkable. We would have just, said, you've got to be joking that we're going to ground the entire fleet for 11 weeks. We've posted, like all other airlines, a huge loss for this last financial year. And it's hard to see your way through the fog, at the moment. You think, when is this going to end? But I think we just keep coming back to the fact that the demand for travel will still be there. Humans want to travel. We know that over time, and we know that travel is good for economies. I mean, in the UK alone, the travel industry accounts for some 4.5% of GDP. So it's a very, very important part of a growing economy, and that demand will still be there. And we're also certain that we will find our way out of this COVID nightmare that we're in at the moment. So you put those two together, and you can see some light at the end of the tunnel, although you've got to work through this immediate problem. And I think for the cadets and the aspiring pilots that are perhaps watching, it's a very difficult period, but don't be too disheartened, because you've got youth on your side, which is great. And more importantly, you've still got a very exciting future ahead in terms of a career, because aviation will be there, and we will still need people to fly those remarkable aircraft in the future. And so, keep holding the faith. There is a career for you. I am 100% sure of that. There is just this paused period at the moment while we get through this difficult pandemic.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank you very much for your participation. Wish you well in navigating your way through this pandemic. Wish easyJet well in their carbon neutral project. Hopefully there'll be all sorts of nice, shiny, hydrogen-powered orange aeroplanes flying all over the place, at least short haul, in my lifetime. At least I'll be able to buy a ticket on one of those. And in the meantime, thanks very much for doing the bit of carbon offsetting as well for me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.